Oh, okay, y'all, we're live.
Ooh,
Uh, I do believe. I think we're live. Okay, hello everyone. This is Dr. Roger Paul. Hi, Let. Uh,
Hi.
to- this morning we're going to continue our study with paper 120, and this is the pre-bestowal of number 7 instructions from Immanuel. Okay, so it's paper 120. We're in section 2, paragraph 9. And in the original book, that's on paper 1320, that's in page 1329.1. Or if you're just going by the paper 120, section 2, paragraph 9. Okay, all the instructions are done. And we seem to be recording today. I've got a new computer set up running today, so y'all be patient with me. I may have to come and go. I'm not sure. We'll have to see. I mean, that's all I can do. Let's say a little prayer and we will get started. Father, thank you for bringing us together today. Thank you for this opportunity to share this wonderful revelation you have provided for us. We thank you for your son and his wisdom in letting us learn this stuff before we go to the mansion worlds. And we thank you for all of our many blessings. We want to put a special prayer out this morning for the people in Pakistan, the Christian churches and the Christians of Pakistan. The Muslims are burning their homes and their churches and making people homeless and children without food. Pray that you'll watch over them, bless them in any way you can. We pray that the people in America here will open their hearts and their purses and maybe support this for them. There's so many people that need help. We thank you for your blessings. We thank you for the opportunity to do this. We say this in the name of your son, Michael, Jesus of Nazareth. Amen.
man.
Okay, here we go. Number 9. And let's see who's at the top of the list. Diane, you're at the top of the list.
Okay. 9. I caution you ever to bear in mind that while in fact you are to become an ordinary human of the realm, in potential you will remain a creator son of the Paradise Father. Throughout this incarnation, although you will live and act as a son of man, the creative attributes of your personal divinity will follow you from Salvington to Urantia. It will ever be within your power of will to terminate the incarnation at any moment, subjective to the arrival of your thought adjuster. Prior to the arrival and reception of the adjuster, I will vouch for your personality integrity. But subsequent to the arrival of your adjuster and concomitant with your progressive recognition of the nature and import of your bestowal mission, you should refrain from the formulation of any superhuman will to attainment, achievement, or power in view of the fact that your creator prerogatives will remain associated with your mortal personality because of the inseparability of these attributes from your personal presence. But no superhuman repercussions will attend your earthly career apart from the will of the Paradise Father, unless you should, by an act of conscious and deliberate will, make an undivided decision which would terminate in whole personality choice.
Okay, this is very complicated, and I'm going to try to explain it to the best of my ability. But what we have to keep in mind here is these are charges that Immanuel is giving Jesus, or giving Michael, right? Getting ready for his Jesus bestowal. And what he's telling him is because he's a creator son and he has certain divinity attributes that follow him regardless of where he goes, and that cannot be helped. Okay, so that's why he says here it's within his will to terminate this incarnation any time before the arrival of his thought adjuster. Okay, so, and he got his thought adjuster about 5 years old, just like we did. Okay, so that's what they're talking about. Then after the thought adjuster comes, he goes under the will. That the whole point of this bestowal is him to act under the will of the universal Father. Okay, so after the adjuster comes, he is trying to do everything in his life according to the will of the thought adjuster, just like we do. That's what we do, really, in reality. We try to do everything within the will of God, okay? God the Father. So up to the point of his baptism, when the thought adjuster was separated from his mind, up to that point, the thought adjuster would communicate through his mind, and he would receive the information of the will of the Father through his mind, just like we do.
Mhm.
So that way he got the whole experience of having God the Father lead him. After that point, though, however, his will took over, and he had to consciously think about doing the will of God. Okay, at that point, because he's a creator son, and all his creator prerogatives follow with him. So he had to give his personality the ability to not use his creator prerogatives during that period of time. And that's when all the miracles happened, right? So that's why he was always saying, if it be the will of my paradise Father. Remember that over and over throughout the life of Christ? The reason he was saying that is because he did not want his superhuman will to override the will of the Father. Okay. And it said, what he's talking about here, he says, by an act of conscious and deliberate will, make an undivided decision which would terminate this whole personality choice. So if he made a conscious, deliberate will choice outside the Father's will, then that would separate what he's trying to do, in essence. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what Immanuel is warning him about. So he had to consciously keep his divinity in check all the time. And that's the reason he kept saying, if it be the will of my Father in heaven,
Remind him.
mind him over and over again that he can't just use his creator prerogatives, because anything a creator son wills immediately happens. Okay, because he's the sovereign of the universe. Okay, so that's what this is. That's why this is a very important paragraph, and that's why they go through this in the in these papers to such a great degree. All right.
Well, if Roger,
Yes.
if he would have made a unilateral decision, other than it wasn't the will of the Father,
Right.
would he be doing the same as Adam and Eve or the devil, because he wasn't doing the will of the Father, he was doing his will? Wouldn't that be the same thing?
No,
And
not
therefore
necessarily.
he would terminate his whole agenda, his
No, not
bestowals and
necessarily.
everything, huh?
Not necessarily, Gary, because he, as a creator son, is entitled to run his universe any way he sees fit. Okay.
But he
So
wasn't a creator son yet. He had to
no,
get
he was
permission from God.
no, he was a creator son from the very first of the 7 bestowals. I mean, well, he was the creator son from the first of the beginning of our universe. So that you cannot take away the fact that he was the creator son during all of this. So he had to separate his divinity to do these 7 experiences as bestowals. Okay. So he still had the right to do all of this, but by doing his own will instead of God's will, then he would be exercising his creator son prerogatives, which would end the bestowal. You follow me? Because the whole point of the bestowal was to do everything within the will of the Father. Just like in the previous bestowals, he did one in the will of the infinite spirit. He did one in the will of the Son of God, the eternal Son. He also did one in the will of the Paradise Trinity, right, in different combinations. But this one was the will of the Paradise Father. So if he took back that will, then the bestowal would have to end because he went outside the parameters of the bestowal.
And he'd
Okay,
have to redo another
he'd have to
bestowal.
redo it all over again to get his sovereignty, right?
Hmm.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
You get one
Yes.
shot at it as a creator son,
Mhm.
right?
A lot of pressure.
So that's, yeah, it's a lot of pressure to do that. So he had to be very careful not to exercise his own creator will, only God's will. Okay. That's what this whole council is, advice and counsels about, is this is what you're going to go through. So you have to be careful of this, 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 and this. You know what I'm saying? So it's pretty important. Okay.
Hmm.
So Rodney, I believe you're up next.
Yes, 3, further counsel and advice. And now, my brother, in taking leave of you, as you prepare to depart for Urantia, and after counseling you regarding the general conduct of your bestowal, allow me to present certain advices that have been arrived at in consultation with Gabriel, and which concern minor phases of your mortal life. We further suggest.
Okay, so what he's saying here is he's giving you, he's given all the advice about the bestowal, right? What you say, the creator son advice. Now he's going to give him advice that Gabriel suggests about his human life itself while he's here. Okay, so that's why he's going at this at a different direction, right? Okay. And this is a list of things for him to do. So Pam, would you take the first one, please?
1, that in the pursuit of the ideal of your mortal earth life, you also give some attention to the realization and exemplification of some things practical and immediately helpful to your fellow men.
This is part of being part of the brotherhood of God, right? So Gabriel and Immanuel saying, while you're there, you need to help the human race as much as you can within the limits of this bestowal. So pretty important.
Roger,
Yes.
in other words, help the human race spiritually.
Right. Help the spiritual, help the human race spiritually, because he's not going to be doing miracles to feed everybody in the world and, take power. And, they talk about in the New Testament, next time Jesus comes, it'll be in power and glory. Well, what they're talking about is he'll come as the creator son, which has all power throughout all our local universe. He is the last word on everything. So when he comes back, it will be power and glory, but he's not going to appear on top of a building, with, a group of angels behind him and that sort of thing, which is the concept we get of power and glory. It's totally different. It's a spiritual power.
He's not speaking of anything material or political.
Not material or political. He wouldn't take over the governments. He wouldn't, all that stuff. So, we keep hoping, because of the situation in our own planet right now, we keep hoping somebody spiritual will come over and take over the government of the planet, because we are in such a mess. Our whole governmental system, the world government, the way we've been lied to so many years, all these things are not the will of God that this happens. So as spiritual beings, we continue to pray that they'll come back over and take over the political situation, and that's really not their job to do that. So because if you look at what's going on around the world, it is sad. It is so sad. And it's very upsetting, even as spiritual people, because we know what's coming. What's bad about it is those who are not spiritual, don't know what's coming. So you can imagine the depression and things like that that sets in for folks because they're living in a situation that seems so like there's no help for it. You know what I'm saying? So that's where we're coming from. All right. Go ahead. Who is up? Letch, I believe you're up now.
Okay. 2, as concerns family relationships, give precedence to the accepted customs of family life as you find them established in the day and generation of your bestowal. Live your family and community life in accordance with the practices of the people among whom you have elected to appear.
So with this advice, we know that Jesus is going to follow the customs and the practice of the Jewish faith because that's the way he was raised. Okay. So he's not going to go outside those practices on any great length or any normality because that's the way he is been raised and that's what he's supposed to do. All right. Okay. Let's get out to the next one. Gary, would you take the next one?
3, in your relations to the social order, we advise that you confine your efforts largely to spiritual regeneration and intellectual emancipation.
Emancipation.
Yeah, okay, emancipation. Avoid all entanglements with the economic structure and the political commitments of your day. More especially, devote yourself to living the ideal religious life on Urantia.
Okay, so knowing this, Jesus is not going to go out and take over the world, is he? He's not going to straighten out the political mess that was going on during the Roman times. You know, the Romans were very oppressive. You know, they took over everything. So when the rebellious young youth come to Jesus and ask him to join in with them because they saw the power that he had, of course, he did not do that. Because of the suggestion itself that would be getting entangled with the social and political arrangements of that particular day. And we know that's not part of the bestowal. All right.
It's too difficult for him. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You take the next one, dear.
Letch is up.
Huh?
Letch.
No, he just,
No, he
I
read
just did.
before, and then Gary just read.
Oh,
So
I'm
it's up to
sorry.
you.
It's my turn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. 4, under no circumstances and not even in the least detail should you interfere with the normal and orderly progressive evolution of the Urantia races. But this prohibition must not be interpreted as limiting your efforts to leave behind you on Urantia an enduring and improved system of positive religious ethics. As a dispensational son, you are granted certain privileges pertaining to the advancement of the spiritual and religious status of the world's peoples.
Okay. This paragraph, see, if you read these paragraphs properly, this book will enlighten you beyond belief. And I'm going to give you some enlightenment right now. This paragraph is why the celestial authorities don't come down and take over our world and straighten all of our political mess out. This right here. Can you see it? It says under no circumstances, not even in the least detail, should you interfere in the normal and progressive evolution of the Urantia races. You see that? If they came over and took over our world, it would be doing what? Just that. It would interfere with the normal evolution of the planet because they would run the planet perfectly. Okay. And we don't know how to run the planet perfectly. We're not even in the ballpark. You
I don't
follow
think
me?
it's normal though.
Yeah, it's not normal. No, but
And it would take away our free will too.
that would take away our free will. That's
would.
exactly right. right? So his job was to leave a positive religious ethics on the planet
Mhm.
and spiritual advancement, and that's exactly what he did, right? Okay. This all makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It's very,
Yeah, very
It sounds like
enlightening.
the prime directive from Star Trek.
It does, doesn't it?
I was thinking the same thing.
Okay, Rodney, would you take the next one?
5, as you may
Yes.
see fit, you are to identify yourself with existing religious and spiritual movements as they may be found on Urantia, but in every possible manner seek to avoid the formal establishment of an organized cult, a crystallized religion, or a segregated ethical grouping of mortal beings. Your life and your teachings are to become the common heritage of all religions and all peoples.
Okay. This paragraph tells us that the Christian church as we know it was not the plan, was it? Never
No.
was the plan,
Right.
right? This basically tells us that Jesus's life and his teachings was for all religions, not just Christianity. Of course, Christianity was supposed to be the brotherhood of man, right? The starting of a concept of the brotherhood of man. And the Christian church should have been just that, right? Incorporating all religions, all peoples, all sects. Excuse me, y'all. But instead, Peter and Paul put together a priesthood. They put together a church, right? And they did that because that's all they knew what to do, how to do. And Jesus tried to teach them, but the light didn't come on, okay? So that's why we ended up with the Catholic Church, along with the 300 and something years after that, the putting the Bible together, right? So it just compounded the problem. So we can see from this that all religions and all religious people should have been influenced and taught by Jesus himself. Okay, that was the whole point. Okay.
Number 6.
Number 6, Pam.
To the end that you may not unnecessarily contribute to the creation of subsequent stereotyped systems of Urantia religious beliefs or other types of non-progressive religious loyalties, we advise you still further. Leave no writings behind you on the planet. Refrain from all writing upon permanent materials. Enjoy your associates to make no images or other likenesses of yourself in the flesh. See that nothing potentially idolatrous is left on the planet at the time of your departure.
That's why Jesus never wrote anything down, did he? He never had a scribe write anything down. He didn't want everything that he said recorded in that fashion. So, because what they would have done is what they exactly did after he died, isn't it? They put the New Testament together, and they got so many things wrong, it's pathetic. But this is what happens because people forget quickly. Okay, so when the midwayers came to Jesus and said, we would like to retell your life. Okay, we would like to straighten it out. We would like to give a revelation to the planet of what actually happened during your life. And Jesus was all for it. Okay, so what did they do? They had to get permission from the Most Highs of the constellation, and then they had to get permission from the Ancients of Days to bring us this revelation. Y'all with me? Okay, so that's how this revelation came to be. So when we retell the life of Christ and we read through the life of Christ, you can bet this is what really happened. Okay, and one of the reasons that they revealed all this to us is because we didn't get it right in the four gospels. Okay. So that's why they're retelling it. And I think it's just a blessing beyond belief that it happened. And the other thing is, Jesus did not want to leave anything idolatrous behind. So remember when he got ready to go on his spiritual mission right after his baptism, what did he do?
He went home.
back. He went home, and what did he do, Rodney?
He destroyed any writing that he
He
had.
destroyed anything he had written on, any pictures he had drawn, anything when he was teaching the children, he'd draw on pictures and stuff. He destroyed it all because he didn't want to leave anything behind, right? No images of himself. And knowing that, I'm going to bring a sore point up with people because people keep trying to push this. You think the Shroud of Turin is real?
No.
I don't either.
No.
No, I truly don't. Because why? He would not want any image of himself left behind. Okay? Let me tell y'all a little secret. And I truly believe this. When Jesus comes again, the Jesus that we will see will be different for every single one of us. Let me tell you why. The Jesus we will see is the concept of Jesus as deity in our own minds. So the mechanical physical controllers will project that image from our mind in our eyes. So
And,
the
and
Jesus
speak
I
different
see,
languages.
we speak different
Mhm, right.
languages. The Jesus I see will be different than the Jesus you see. The Jesus I see will be a very dark-skinned being with sandy blonde hair, probably in a beard, because that's the way I perceive Jesus. To someone else, he may be black. To someone else, he may be very white-skinned. To someone else, he may be totally different. He may not even have a beard to them. Okay, so it will be the projection of deity of Jesus that you perceive yourself. Make sense? That's what I truly believe. Okay, let's go on to the next one. 7. Let's see, Letch, I think you're up again.
Okay. While you will live the normal and average social life of the planet, being a normal individual of the male sex, you will probably not enter the marriage relation, which relation would be wholly honorable and consistent with your bestowal. But I must remind you that one of the incarnation mandates of Sonarington forbids the leaving of human offspring behind on any planet by a bestowal son of paradise origin.
Okay, so all these movies you see that says there's a bloodline of Christ, he had kids with Mary Magdalene and all this stuff. What do you think that is?
Baloney.
Baloney, poppycock, right? Not true. Okay,
Right.
because that's a mandate of Sonarington. That's from paradise. That's top level. You know, that's not going to happen. Yeah, Rodney.
However, he could have been married. He could have
have
had
been
a-
married. He could have been married, but you know, you think about it. Do you think he would allow himself to be married?
No.
Probably not. Why? Because he has a mate. It's called the local universe mother spirit, right? He's already married.
It'd be a two-timer.
Yeah, that's right. All right.
Well, he'd be too busy to have time. To
I
marry.
know.
Really? Good point.
Listen, you should talk to my wife. That's what she says about me. I'm too busy all the time for anything. You
Well,
know,
Not everything, but
There was
yeah.
that writer Leo Buscaglia who used to write books about love and so on. He said that he decided never to marry because he had a mission in his life to go around the world, sort of spreading his, philosophy about love and so forth. So it
Yeah.
kind of makes
Mhm.
sense.
Who
Yeah,
was
it
that?
does.
Leo Buscaglia, and he's kind of forgotten already, unfortunately.
Yeah, he was pretty popular back in the 70s or 70s or
70s and
80s.
80s. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Gary, would you take the next one, please?
Yes. 8. In all other details of your ongoing bestowal, you would commit we would commit you to the leading of an indwelling adjuster, the teaching of the ever-present divine spirit of human guidance, and the reasoned judgment of your expanding human mind of hereditary endowment. Such an association of creature and creator attributes will enable you to live for us the perfect life of man on the planetary spheres, not necessarily perfect as regarded by any one man in any one generation on any one world, much less on Urantia, but wholly and supremely replete as evaluated on the mighty, more highly perfected and perfecting worlds of your far-flung universe.
Okay, so this is interesting because Michael had lived 6 previous bestowals as a perfect being of that bestowal. Okay, and so when he came to our planet, he lived a perfect life as a mortal being, but not perfect as according to every single man. Okay, but it would be considered perfect on all those worlds, the more highly perfected worlds in our whole universe that's on a higher level. But when you come to a barbaric mess like this planet is, his life would not seem perfect to everyone. You follow me? Because our values are definitely not perfect by any stretch of the human imagination. Okay. All right.
Roger,
Yes.
because he lived a perfect mortal life, I understand how the more advanced worlds benefit from this. However, I wonder how they're taught about Jesus on our world. Do they have a revelation similar to this, or?
Not only, I really believe this, Rodney, not only a revelation similar to this, a revelation from God, the local universe, but many of the more advanced planets probably could see and experience the bestowal of Jesus as it was going on, because we know that everything is recorded. Okay, so they may have been relayed through the broadcast, everything that went on during the entire life of Jesus, and they could sit and watch it like on TV or whatever they got on those planets. They probably could watch it and experience simultaneously as it went on these more advanced planets. Now, the primitive ones, that would not be the case, but on the primitive planets, I'm sure that they will eventually provide them with a revelation like the Urantia book. On their planet, it might be called the La-di-da book, who knows, depending on what kind of name they have for their planet, but it would be a book about the spirituality on their planet, and it would be included in that would be the life of Christ, right, that happened on Urantia. So, it's kind of interesting. When I first started reading the book, I hated the name Urantia because it seemed like tarantula or something like that, And I thought, why would they name a book so badly? But the reason they named the book is that was the name of our planet. And when they named the book for publication, they probably should have put the Urantia book / the Earth book, because we know it as Earth, but everyone else knows us as Urantia. Okay, so it gives this connotation that it's something weird, and it's really not that way at all. The other thing they could have called it was the Spiritual Enlightenment book, it would have been just as good, something along that line, because that's
Mhm.
really what it is, right? All right.
That would have been more of an eye catcher.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
really would
definitely.
have
Yeah.
been. Because that's really what it is. The tricky part is with this book is understanding, you know, and we being stupid humans, it takes us a long time for things to sink in. Okay. I mean, I take myself in as an example. I'd read it 50 times before I really started taking it in and understanding it. And I'm not a stupid person by any stretch of the imagination, but I didn't read it one time and say, got it, man. I've read that. I know what it is. If you ever run into, I'll never forget, we were at a seminar once, me and my wife. I think Rodney was there too. But anyway, this lady in the next booth next to us said,
Oh, I read it.
said, you're spreading the Urantia book, huh? And I said, yeah. I said, we've been teaching it for a while. I just started teaching it. And she said, well, I read that. She said, I got it. And I said, you read it once and you got it? I said, you're doing better than me then.
Mhm.
Takes more than one time through for sure. Oh, okay. Let's keep going. Who else? Who's up
I
next?
think I am.
You are? Okay.
And now may your Father and my Father, who has ever sustained us in all past performances, guide and sustain you and be with you from the moment you leave us and achieve the surrender of your consciousness of personality throughout your gradual return to recognition of your divine identity, incarnate in human form, and then on through the whole of your bestowal experience on Urantia until your deliverance from the flesh and your ascension to our Father's right hand of sovereignty. When I shall again see you on Salvington, we shall welcome your return to us as a supreme and unconditional sovereign of this universe of your own making, serving, and completed understanding.
Okay, so this is his blessing, right,
Yeah.
to Jesus. And then he goes on to state that he'll see him again when it's all over with on Salvington, the capital of our local universe, and he will be considered the sovereign, undisputed sovereign of the universe at that point when he comes back. Okay. Let's see here. Oh, I'm in the wrong one here. Okay. Rodney, would you take the next one?
Yes. In your stead, I now reign. I assume jurisdiction of all Nebadon as acting sovereign and during the interim of your seventh and mortal bestowal on Urantia. And to you, Gabriel, I commit the safeguarding of the Son of Man about to be until he shall presently and in power and glory be returned to me as the Son of Man and the Son of God. And Gabriel, I am your sovereign until Michael thus returns.
So Immanuel takes charge, doesn't he? He turns to Gabriel and says, I am your sovereign until your sovereign actually returns. Okay, so this is the final charge, that this is going to happen, and this is the way it's going to happen, right? And that's exactly what happened. Okay. All right, Pam, would you take the next one?
Then immediately, in the presence of all Salvington, Michael removed himself from our midst, and we saw him no more in custom place until as the supreme and personal ruler of the universe, subsequent to the completion completion of his bestowal career on Urantia.
Okay, so Michael at that point removed himself and he disappeared during the bestowal period, right? Okay, that's what was supposed to happen. All right, and this is some sub stuff about the bestowal itself. Okay, so let's start here. Lech, would you take the next one, please?
Yes. The young Incarnation making 2-1. And so certain unworthy children of Michael, who had accused their creator father of selfishly seeking rulership and indulged the insinuation that the Creator Son was arbitrarily and autocratically upheld in power by virtue of the unreasoning loyalty of a deluded universe of subservient creatures, were to be silenced forever and left confounded and disillusioned by the life of the self-forgetful service which the Son of God now entered upon as the Son of Man, all the while subject to the will of the Paradise Father.
I love this. In other words, regardless of what all these rebellious people were saying, he is the sovereign of the universe. And so he did things just like he always does, self-forgetting. He became the Son of Man and was subject to the will of the Paradise Father during the whole bestowal. Okay. And that the world and the universe is not run arbitrarily or autocratically by the virtue of a loyal and deluded universe. So that makes us what? We're the deluded, a loyal and deluded universe of subservient creatures.
Oh, Roger,
Yeah,
he
Rodney.
became the lowest of his creation.
That's
much
right.
lower than these other people that
Beings.
the
Yeah.
beings are
Yeah.
getting down on him.
That's exactly right. He became the lowest of the lowest human beings, right? All right.
On your answer, yeah.
Yeah. Gary, would you take the next one?
Yeah. Yes. But make no mistake, Christ Michael, while truly a dual origin being, was not a double personality. It wasn't crazy. He was not God in association with man, but rather God incarnate in man. He was always just that combined being. The only progressive factor in such a non-understandable relationship was the progressive self-conscious realization and recognition by the human mind of this fact of being God and man.
Do y'all understand what they're talking about, him being God and man? He
Yeah.
was the creator of everything in our local universe, including us. Okay. Not God the Father. God the Father created him. And he, in essence, Michael is the vicegerent of God the Father always. Okay. So he does everything according to the will of God the Father. But our concept of God is Jesus or Michael. Okay. That's what's so important about this. And this is how he becomes God and man. Okay. All right. Diane.
Christ Michael did not progressively become God. God did not at some vital moment in the earth life of Jesus become man. Jesus was God and man, always and even forevermore. And this God and this man were, and now are, one, even as a paradise trinity of three beings is in reality one deity.
So Jesus was God. Michael was God, is God, both of them. They were during this bestowal and they still are. And the memory and personality of Jesus the man is still the possession of Michael the sovereign. Okay, that's the way it works. You can't separate the two. Non-separatable, as they say. Okay, Rodney, would you take the next one, please?
Yes. Never lose sight of the fact that the supreme spiritual purpose of the Michael bestowal was to enhance the revelation of God.
Okay, so that was the whole mission, okay, is to enhance the revelation of God the Father himself. Okay. Pam, would you take the next one, please?
Urantia mortals have varying concepts of the miraculous, But to us who live as citizens of the local universe, there are few miracles. And of these, by far, the most intriguing are the incarnational bestowals of the paradise sons. Their appearance in and on your world by apparently natural process is of a divine son we regard as a miracle. The operation of universal laws beyond our understanding. Jesus of Nazareth was a miraculous person.
Okay,
Mhm.
so the way they think of miracles and the way we think of miracles is two different animals, right? Okay, so in the local universe, they don't consider much as miracles outside the bestowals. All right. I skipped over one here somewhere. All right, y'all go ahead. Let me back up here. I think I stepped. Oh. Okay. Letch, would you take the next one?
Okay. In and through all this extraordinary experience, God the Father chose to manifest himself as he always does, in the usual way, in the normal, natural, and dependable way of divine acting.
Okay, so that father fragment within you, that piece of God within you, does this in a normal, natural, dependable way of divine acting. He does it the same way all the time in every single being. Okay, there aren't any variations of that. Okay, and next up is the paper 121, the times of Michael's bestowal. Okay, that's the next paper we're going to take up. So let me say a couple things about this, ending this section. This section's not only, this paper is not only part of the life of Christ, but this ends, this is the last paper I'm going to attach to the Jesus Who, What, When series. Okay, so this will be the last one of the series for the Jesus Who, What, When of the local universe. So if you've been going through that series and you're at this paper, we're jumping off of this and going straight into paper 121, which is the time period of Michael's bestowal. Okay, so this starts the life of Jesus. This starts the bestowal of Michael on the planet. So that's why I'm separating these two. So this will be the last video on the Jesus Who, What, When, but it is part, this will be part of the section 4 of the Urantia book, which is the life of Christ. Okay, so y'all at home, wanted to make sure that's clear so that everybody kind of understands where this is going. Let me stop the share up here. Okay, here we go. All right, thank you for all joining us. We appreciate it. We're glad everyone's coming and listening to the videos and stuff. We thank y'all at Facebook for joining us and YouTube, and we're going to try to improve these videos as we go. I keep technically tweaking them, trying to get them a little bit better, and we'll see how we do over a period of time. So let's say a little prayer and we'll shut down the recording for today. Diane, you want to pray first today? No? Okay. Gary, how about you? Would you like to pray for us today? Close us out?
Oh, you had to pick on me. I was being very quiet today
Yeah.
intentionally.
That's why I have to pick on you. We want to hear from you.
Let me give it a shot.
Okay.
Dear Jesus, let your thought adjusters and everybody have a louder voice in our lives to help progress everybody to a higher level faster. We need to be around us people who have the higher ideal of your life and experiences, and let these people and everybody else be a glowing light for leadership. Amen.
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 Thank you.
And we
Very
thank
good.
everyone for coming and joining us. Please come see us again. Let me stop the Facebook and stop the recording here.